Hey guys, Bartel's Bookshelf here with yet another weekly update video. As you can tell, I'm back in Foster City. As I mentioned in my vlog video, Aaron's up here for work, so I've started coming up every other week. I've got all my work stuff set up on my laptop so I can work up here. That's been going really well. This week, I'm still reading. I'm just reading very slowly. It's really frustrating, but I have been reading. And yesterday, I actually decided to go to this local used bookstore that's about 2 miles away from our hotel called B Street Books. Yeah, this was actually a really cool place. I wasn't expecting much of it, because it just looked like a fairly generic used bookstore, but it was a decent size. It was nice and cozy. The staff were really nice to me. Um, and actually, they had a pretty impressive vintage sci-fi section, which really surprised me. I wasn't expecting that at all. Um, in fact, most of what I bought on this little venture was vintage sci-fi, most of which I've been looking for a long time, or just was interested in, or had heard about, or whatever. And so, being able to cross a few more items off my list was not what I expected to find on this trip, but it was something that I was pleasantly surprised and pleased by. So yeah, I just thought I would do just to get something out on my YouTube channel. I would do a little mini haul here, just kind of talking about the books I got. So yeah, hopefully you find that interesting. So here we go. The first book I have is Hero's Journey by Sterling E. Lanier. This is the Del Rey edition from the 80s, I believe. Yeah, 1983. Um, I don't know a whole lot about this. I was just interested in this because it was one of the many books that was referenced in the original Dungeon Master's Guide from 1979 for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. There was a little appendix where Gary Gygax had a big list of all of the books that were an influence on him, including Lee Brackett, Jack Vance, and he mentioned this book, which I'd never heard of, but it sounds really bizarre and interesting. Père Hiero Destine was a priest, a telepath, and a highly trained killer. Together with his great riding moose and the young bear who was his friend, he was on a mission that seemed beyond even his extraordinary powers. For this was 5,000 years after the Holocaust known as the Death, and the world was greatly changed. Now the evil Brotherhood of the Unclean was waging all-out war against the few remnants of normal humanity, determined to wipe out all traces of its emerging civilization. Hero's task was to locate and bring back a lost secret of the ancients which might save the humans who were ruled by the abbeys. But his path lay through the very heart of the unknown territory ruled by the unclean and their hordes of mutated, intelligent, and savage beast followers, and the unclean were waiting for him. So yeah, it's a really bizarre post-apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy mix from the 70s. It sounds really psychedelic and weird. I'm not sure how this was an influence on Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm interested to find out. So yeah, and yeah, this was pretty expensive on thrift books. It was like getting up to like $10 or more, I think, depending on the copy. And all the paperbacks here were $3.95 each. So yeah, I grabbed that as soon as I saw it. So there we go. Next, I have a very famous novel from a very famous author. This is Way Station by Clifford D. Simak. I didn't have a copy of this. This is one of the Clifford D. Simaks I've been wanting to read. What I really wanted was a copy of City, which is increasingly hard to find in the wild and online, especially for a decent price. I think I found a copy once in a used bookstore, and I wish I'd grabbed it, but it wasn't a cover that I wanted, so I didn't buy it. I really wish I did now, but this is his other famous novel, Way Station. Neighbors saw Enoch Wallace as an ageless hermit, striding across his untended farm as he had done for over a century, still carrying the gun with which he had served in the Civil War. They must never know that inside his unchanging house he met and conversed with a host of unimaginable friends from the farthest stars. More than 100 years before, an alien being named Ulysses had recruited Enoch as the keeper of Earth's only galactic transfer station. Now he studied the progress of Earth as he tended the tanks where the aliens appeared, and the charts he made indicated that his world was doomed to destruction. His alien friends could only offer help that seemed worse than the dreaded disaster. Then he discovered the horror that lay across the galaxy. So yeah, this is one of his other famous works, and actually this is also a Del Rey edition, an early 80s Del Rey edition. This was $3.95, and I think on thrift books this was like $8, and this is like really nice condition. I mean, there's like some little nicks here and there, but the spine isn't wrinkled. I mean, it's like clean. There's no scratches on the front. It looks really nice for a secondhand book. It almost looks like it's never even been read. So yeah, I had to grab that. Again, I would have preferred a copy of City. But I am interested in reading more Clifford Simak, and this is kind of his other sort of big famous novel, so I am looking forward to that as well. Next, I have this short novel. This is Beyond Apollo by Barry Malzberg. This is from this has got to be the 70s, right? Yeah, 1972. This is the pocketbooks edition. The first Venus expedition returns to Earth. Harry M. Evans, the lone survivor, has the shocking knowledge of its fate locked in his skull. Only he knows what deadly mind-bending beings exist on Venus. Only he has experienced their awesome power and survived. The world waits in mortal fear for him to speak. Um, I I've heard the name Barry Malzberg. Don't know anything about him, but I wanted this because the great channel Bookpilled, who talks a lot about vintage sci-fi, he mentioned this book in a recent sort of favorite reads video, and it sounded really intriguing. I actually wrote down I think most of the books he talked about in that video, and I've been looking for them, but unfortunately a lot of the ones he talked about are really hard to find secondhand. I haven't seen any in the wild either. But this again, this is 3.95, and on thrift books or like in other secondhand places, this is getting up to like 8, 10, $15. So again, yeah, I had to grab that. And again, this is a really nice copy. A cool cover art too. But yeah, this is a really nice copy. There's no creases on the spine. There's no major scuffs or anything. Nothing's torn. I'm really surprised. I mean, this is just like I said. This was just some random used bookstore that I ran across in Foster City, 2 miles from my hotel, and I found all this stuff. I was just so impressed by that. Next, I have Godbody by Theodore Sturgeon. Interesting cover art. Seducer or savior, he came to a small American town, and suddenly nothing was the same. Meek and mild men discovered the raw power of lust. Sensually starved women learned the ecstasy of fulfillment. Icy hearts were melted by the warmth of aroused flesh, and the spirit blossomed in a lush garden of desire that this stranger planted and nurtured. Was he good or evil? Should he be worshipped or destroyed? You will find the extraordinary answer in this, the boldest triumph of Theodore Sturgeon, one of the great groundbreaking writers of our time. Obviously, I adore Theodore Sturgeon. I only started reading him last year, but I really love his work. I read his short story collection E Pluribus Unicorn and his novel The Dreaming Jewels. I loved both. I still need to get to More Than Human, but I found this, and again, this was really cheap, 3.95 as compared to like $8 on used bookstore sites. I didn't actually figure this out until afterward, but this was his last published novel. It was published posthumously in 1986, and I don't think it was ever properly like revised. I think this is kind of like pretty much a first draft. So people say it's kind of a minor work from him, but he didn't write that many novels. So I want to read everything I can get my hands on from him. And the premise sounds really intriguing. I'm interested in this sort of lust god or whoever this person is. So I don't know, and maybe there's some like interesting sort of sexual free love aspects to it. I know that's something that Sturgeon kind of wrote about a little bit here and there. He was very much in favor of sexual liberation and freedom and all that stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe that'll be interesting. I went back and forth on this one, but I finally decided to grab it. This is the most beat up one that I've bought. This is the Best of Edmond Hamilton, again from Del Rey, um, edited by Leigh Brackett, who I believe was his wife, because she mentions in the introduction, when it was decided that Ballantyne was going to do a Best of Edmond Hamilton and that I was going to edit it, Ed allowed as to how, after nearly 30 years of being married to him, I was probably better qualified than most, having read more Hamilton stories, and he gave me only one word of advice concerning the introduction I was to write. Yeah, I had no idea Leigh Brackett was married to Edmond Hamilton. Edmond Hamilton is a vintage sci-fi author I've only discovered very recently. I don't know a whole lot about him except that he wrote the really pulpy Captain Future series, which sounded like a lot of fun. I was hoping to find some of that, but since this was all they had of Edmond Hamilton, and again, these best ofs from Del Rey are getting up there in price, I went for it. It's really beat up. I've never read Hamilton before. I'm taking a complete gamble on this, but I'm hoping it'll be good. And I skimmed through the introduction and a little bit of the first story, and it sounded interesting. So we'll see. I mean, on the back it says here, just to give an example of what some of the stories are like. Thundering worlds. Fleeing a dying sun, mankind set out across space, not in starships, but in an incredible armada made up of the very planets of the solar system. The man who evolved. He harnessed the energy of the universe to reach man's next godlike stage, and then took the step after that. In the world's dusk, the last survivor of the human race brought back the dead to people Earth, and when that failed, tried an even more desperate way of making his planet live again. Exile. He created a barbaric, nightmarish world, and then he had to live in it. The day of judgment, the last man and the last woman return to Earth to face a jury with a million-year grievance to avenge. Plus the unforgettable Requiem and 15 other unique tales alive with a surging sense of wonder. So yeah, don't know. Sounds weird and bizarre, and weird and bizarre vintage SF is really my jam. I love that sort of stuff. And as I said, Edmond Hamilton is considered something of an elder statesman in the sci-fi world. So I'm interested to see what that's like. So yeah. And these last two are the only bits of SF that I didn't buy. These are vintage mystery novels from Pocket Books. These are really old, actually. These are from the 50s, I believe. Yeah, this first one is from 1950. Well, this pocketbook edition is from 1959. This third printing is from 1963. I grabbed some Ellery Queen. This first one is The Finishing Stroke. Ellery Queen, obviously, is the pseudonym for the two authors who wrote these series of books and short stories around the detective Ellery Queen. The great BookTube channel Mystery and Mayhem recently did an overview of Ellery Queen and some of his collection of Ellery Queen books. And it just sort of reminded me I've never read Ellery Queen. I know the name, obviously, because, there's the Ellery Queen magazine, and Ellery Queen is kind of just like a known name kind of in the mystery and thriller world, but I've never actually read any Ellery Queen books. And I hoped to find some, and I did, thankfully. These are the only two I could find, unfortunately, but they sounded interesting. This one says, It was Christmas, and Ellery Queen was one of 12 people gathered for the holidays in the immense and rambling mansion. That was the night the first message came, but how and from whom no one knew. It was a warning of slow, deliberate murder. Night after night, the warnings kept coming. On the 12th night, this was the message. On the 12th night of Christmas, your true love sends to you this fatal dagger, this jeweled knife, this finishing stroke to end your life. And when they found the corpse, the dagger was buried deep in its back. So yeah, Christmas murder mystery. That sounds like a lot of fun. I know Ellery Queen was primarily known for their locked room mysteries, and again, just a very influential crime mystery writer that I have no experience with. So I look forward to finally getting some experience. And then the second one I got was this one, which I think is this is an older book, but this edition I think is yeah, from around the same time, 1962. But this was originally published in 1933. So one of the earlier adventures. This is the Siamese twin mystery. Ellery Queen solves two murders 3 times before ending the Siamese twin mystery. The back just had a little quote from the book, so I'll read the front here. Inspector Queen and his son Ellery had taken a twisting road in the mountains on their way back from vacation. The forest fire had cut them off in front, and when they tried to go back, they found themselves cut off that way too. So they took the only side road that they could find, a rough trail that led straight up to the summit of Arrow Mountain. A road that led to mystery, a road that led to murder. A road that led Ellery Queen into a puzzle he had to solve 3 times before he really had the right answers. But apparently, this one was pretty well regarded. It was considered very complex and interesting. So I was only going to get one because I was worried about spending so much money, but again, these were so cheap that I was like, screw it, I'll just get both. So I have 2 Ellery Queen novels to get stuck into at some point, and I'll finally get to see what all the hype is about, hopefully. So yeah, there you go. That's my small haul from B Street Books. I had a really great time. I definitely want to go back there in the future with Laura and Nakia. We can explore it together and they can hopefully find some interesting things. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, that's really all I've been up to this week so far in Foster City. I've been reading, but I've been reading slowly, which is really frustrating. I brought a whole bunch of books with me, but I've really only been focused on 2 of them. So it is what it is. But I am reading, just not as fast as I would like. But other than that, I'm enjoying myself and I had a good time at the bookstore. And I hope you guys enjoyed hearing what I got. Have you read any of these books or any of these authors? What do you think? Let me know. Where should I start? Do you recommend them? Kind of tell me about them. Leave a comment. I always enjoy talking to people in the comments about books. That's why I started this channel, right? But until then, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.